Picture this. You're 8 years old. The alarm clock sounds like a fire engine crashing into your bedroom, violently ripping you from a majestic dream where you were legally married to a pepperoni pizza. You drag your exhausted body out of bed, strap on a backpack weighing roughly the same as a baby hippopotamus, and march off to a cinder block institution where you will sit completely still under soul-sucking fluorescent lights for the next 7 to 14 hours. You will arbitrarily memorize mathematical formulas you will forget by next Tuesday, all while a terrifying existential dread whispers that if you fail this afternoon's spelling test, you will inevitably end up living in a damp cardboard box, fighting a rogue raccoon for a half-eaten bagel. Welcome to school, the universal shared trauma of the human experience. But here is the truly crazy part. Depending on where your stork dropped you on this giant floating rock, that trauma looks completely different. Today, we're looking at the ultimate heavyweight championship of global education. In the red corner, hailing from East Asia, the undisputed king of the grind, a system that looks at sleep and says, sleep is a myth invented by the weak, South Korea's legendary 14-hour study day. And in the blue corner, hailing from Northern Europe, a system that looks at homework, laughs politely, and says, nah, we're good, let's go look at a pine cone. Finland. Two countries, two entirely opposite strategies, both absolutely obliterating the global testing leaderboards. How is that logically possible? Let's break it down before my brain spontaneously combusts. Let us start with South Korea. If their education system were a movie, it would be a chaotic action thriller directed by Michael Bay, but instead of explosions, it's just non-stop calculus. South Korea transformed from a war-torn nation into a global tech powerhouse in decades. How? Through sheer, highly caffeinated willpower. In South Korea, education is a full-contact blood sport. The entire system is built around one single terrifying apocalyptic day, the Suneung, the College Scholastic Ability Test. It is a grueling 8-hour marathon exam that determines your university, your mega-corporation employer, your social standing, and your credit score for the rest of your natural life. No pressure, just a casual Thursday. Because of the terrifying shadow of the Suneung, the typical day for a South Korean high schooler is relentless. You wake up before the sun, you go to regular school until about 5 in the afternoon, then you get a quick dinner, something you can inhale through a straw while speed walking. Do you go home to play video games? What are you, a slacker? You head to the hagwon. Hagwons are private, for-profit cram schools. Kids go to aggressively study math, English, and science until 11 at night. The government actually had to legally ban them from staying open past 10 p.m. because kids were literally studying themselves into localized comas. The government acts like a bouncer at a nerd club, yelling, "You don't have to go home, but you can't do algebra here." At 11 at night, you drag your exhausted shell home. You do the regular school homework. You do the hagwon homework. You sleep for maybe 4 hours, having cold sweat nightmares about trigonometry, and wake up to do it again. And on the day of the Suneung itself, the entire country hits the pause button. The stock market opens late so roads are clear for nervous teenagers. Armed police on motorcycles give high-speed escorts to kids running late. Commercial airplanes are legally grounded during the English listening section, so jet engine noise doesn't distract the test takers. It is wild. And mathematically speaking, it works. South Korean students consistently rank at the absolute pinnacle of global assessments, but this high-performance Bugatti runs purely on the high-octane tears of stressed-out adolescence. The psychological toll of believing your human worth is tied to a multiple-choice test is devastating. It creates brilliant workers, but at what cost to the human soul? Now, grab a warm cup of cocoa, put on some overly fluffy slippers, and let us mentally teleport to Finland. If the Finnish system were a movie, it would be a critically acclaimed, cozy indie film about people finding their true inner selves in a snow-covered forest. When international experts first looked at Finland's data, they thought somebody hacked the mainframe. Finnish students were scoring just as high as South Korea, but doing everything completely wrong, according to traditional, panic-based logic. In Finland, kids do not start formal academic schooling until they are 7. 7! Before that, it is just daycare, and the curriculum is almost entirely playing, not drilling flashcards, playing in the dirt, building structurally questionable forts with sticks. When they do start school, days are comically short, 4 to 5 hours a day. And here's the mic drop fact that makes parents in other countries violently jealous. They have almost zero homework. Finnish educators fundamentally believe that when the bell rings, kids should go be kids, climb trees, scrape knees, or just stare blankly at the ceiling figuring out who they are. Standardized tests? They basically do not exist. There is one single voluntary exam at the very end of high school. No ranking students like show dogs, no publishing test scores to shame the ones at the bottom. The Finnish system is built on cooperation, not competition. They don't want a handful of elite geniuses and a massive underclass of failures. They want every kid to reach a solid, highly educated baseline. You were probably thinking, okay, Norman, so they just let feral children run wild in the snow and they organically learn advanced algebra? Not exactly. The absolute academic cheat code of the Finnish system is the teachers. In Finland, teaching is one of the most prestigious, respected professions you can have. It is mathematically as difficult to get into a teaching program there as a top-tier medical school in the U.S. Every single teacher must have a government-paid master's degree. Because they are so insanely highly trained, the government trusts them completely. There are no state inspectors breathing down their necks with clipboards, no rigid robotic scripts. If a teacher sees the kids getting restless, they can stop the math lesson dead and say, "All right, everybody, outside, we are learning the physics of friction by rolling tires down a steep hill." They also legally mandate 15 minutes of outdoor recess for every 45 minutes of instruction. Rain, shine, or face-numbing Nordic snow. Brain science actually backs this up. You absolutely cannot focus if you do not give your biological hard drive a chance to reboot. So we are left with a massive, glaring paradox. The 14-hour apocalyptic grind versus the 4-hour woodland stroll, both producing world-class, top-tier results. The logical fallacy we fall into as a society is assuming input always perfectly equals output. We naively assume if studying 1 hour is good, 10 hours must mathematically be 10 times better. But the human brain is not a factory assembly line. It is a squishy biological organ. Corselea proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that if you apply enough societal pressure, you can forcefully compress a staggering amount of information into a brain. But Finland proves that if you optimize for mental well-being and absolute trust, the brain will absorb that exact same information, willingly, happily, and in a fraction of the time. One system operates entirely on the paralyzing fear of failure. The other operates on the natural joy of discovery. The real question isn't which system produces higher test scores. The numbers say it is a dead tie. The real question is, when those students finally graduate, hand in their final papers, and walk out into the unforgiving real world, which ones actually still have the energy left to live?